Hey guys, it's Jen from Sober Like Me. Welcome to my channel where we discuss everything related to addiction, sobriety, recovery, and anything you can think of to get your life back on track. Today we have a treat for you. This is part 2 of my series, Adult Children of Alcoholics. Welcome. Last episode we covered what an adult child is and if you are one. Today we're going to talk about the child and what roles they took on to adapt to and get used to and get through living in an environment that was dysfunctional. So these 3 roles include the responsible one, the adjuster, and the placater. Some of the key traits of the responsible one include when structure and consistency are provided, the responsible one will provide it for themselves and for their siblings. You'll often see this in the oldest child. Life will feel more balanced. It's really what they can do to make their lives feel normal. This role can be either assumed by the child themselves or directed by the parents. And they're actually encouraged to keep going by the alcoholic or para-alcoholic parent. They're really good at goal planning. And also, they're really good at manipulating. They rely 100% on themselves and they really distrust adults. From what they've seen and what they've grown up with, they feel adults are incapable. And the payoff is really earning responsible roles in school. They're viewed by their peers as not so much fun. They have a tendency to not have a lot of friends and not be very social. What might you see of the role of the adjuster? If the role of the adjuster had a mantra, it would be this: put me in any situation and I will adjust. This child is often unseen by family. So in the adjuster's case, it's another sibling typically that is the responsible one, which leaves them finding an easier way to deal with it, and for them, that is adjusting to the situation. So this particular child doesn't really think about the chaos, it just figures out, how am I going to deal with it? How am I going to kind of mesh? Not only does a child not think about it, it also doesn't have any really emotions tied to it. It sees it more as something that has happened, something that is happening, and how am I going to deal with this? Which makes them really have a very realistic point of view about things, about life. Oftentimes by siblings, they're viewed as selfish, and other people will describe them as being very detached. And in a way they kind of are. That has to do with their viewpoint. You have to understand that this is something that's actually worked for them. They make decisions based on what the need is. The adjuster will act typically without thinking or feeling about that decision. They'll never cry in front of you. They'll very much cry alone, but they will never cry in front of you. And academically, they're average. They do associate with other children. They still tend to be pretty detached. They will never show vulnerability in front of anybody. This role, unfortunately, is permeated with denial. They do tend to hang out and associate with other kids, but they will never take on a leadership role. What might you see of the role of the placater? Placaters laugh harder and cry harder. They're very emotional. They're emotionally involved with family and their siblings. They're caretakers. The way they relieve the tension in the household is by taking care of everybody else. They work really hard to try to fix their emotions and the emotions of their siblings. They do their best to make life easier for everybody. They're really skilled at listening and having empathy. It works for them because, well, it makes them well-liked. A full-fledged placater will never disagree. And placaters are the first to apologize, and we know now that this is a trauma response. And the reason that they're the first to apologize is this is one of their failed attempts to kind of fix the substance use disorder within the parent. They're really skilled at diverting attention away from themselves. So there actually is a 4th role that we do see a lot. And in fact, this is the role that will get the most attention. And you'll see why. This role is entitled the acting out child. The acting out child will generally have a low self-esteem, and that's how they draw attention to themselves, by acting out. They actually act in opposition of creating stability. They'll be labeled as the delinquent, the dropout. They might use substances, or they might get pregnant in high school. They find it impossible to communicate with an adult in a healthy way. When you hear the term, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, this is kind of what you're thinking of. This is the type of behavior that you're going to see. To the acting out child, peer acceptance is really important. What's interesting about this is These are the kids that actually receive help quickly. And understandably, they receive help because they're struggling. They're having so many issues, possibly with grades and family dysfunction. The school's able to pick on it relatively quickly. That is one of the upsides. Unfortunately, the other categories, the placator, the responsible one, and the adjuster, often fall by the wayside because they are quiet. They do fit in, and they don't squeak that wheel. All of today's information came from the book Children of Alcoholics. It Will Never Happen to Me by Claudia Black, PhD. Thank you so much for watching part 2 of Adult Children of Alcoholics, Addicts, and Dysfunctional Families. Next week, we're going to dive right into what it's like for young adults and how it can affect decision-making, your life, family planning, and so much more.